am Victoria L. Burson. This is Leadership on the Go. Leadership is not always preparedness for the unknown, but it is tapping into the unknown prepared. Welcome, 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 and welcome. Thank you for being present tonight. Listen, it's not too late to like, tag, and share with your friends and family because this is going to be an awesome evening tonight with our special guest. Matter of fact, in the words of Freddie Haynes, it's going down like 4 flat tires. We are all so excited about this, and we are in for an amazing treat. Not a trick, but a treat. To all of our viewers on Facebook Live with Essentials and Facebook Live with Victoria L. Burson, YouTube and LinkedIn, thank you so much for your support. We are honored and we are happy that you're here. Leadership on the Go will not be the same after tonight. No, it won't. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce my co-host, the comparable Dr. Edward Donalson. I was getting his last name confused. I'm so excited, y'all. Come on through, sir. Come on through.
Good evening, Reverend Burson. How are you?
We are wonderful.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here tonight. This promises to be a conversation that folks have been waiting for with bated breath.
Absolutely. And so listen, I'm going to go ahead and get started with introducing our guest tonight. The theme for tonight is She's a Bad Mama Jama. And yes, she is a bad mama jama. Y'all know that song, She's a Bad Mama Jama? Yeah, I don't want the rest of it. She's just as bad as she can be. So I love this woman. I love this woman with all my heart, my might, and my soul. This woman is bad. She has from afar been mentoring me and teaching me. I'm learning from her. I still continue to learn from her. Yes, I do. I might be older than her, but I'm not too old to keep learning. Yes. So I'm so glad for her to be here tonight. I'm going to read her bio. Normally I extract from it, but I want to read it so that I am not missing anything in this bio. You hear me? Melva L. Sampson is a digital Hush Harbor curator, scholar, and preacher. She was licensed and later ordained into the New Era Missionary Baptist Convention of Georgia, an affiliate of the Progressive National Baptist Convention at the Midway Missionary Baptist Church in College Park, Georgia. Yes, my stomping ground. Under the leadership of Reverend Edward Spencer Reynolds and the Honorable Penny Brown Reynolds, PhD. Reverend Sampson was also ordained a ruling elder in the Greater Atlanta Presbytery of the Presbyterian Church of USA. Over the years, she has served as an associate minister of membership, nurture and care, assistant chaplain, and program manager at Spelman College, Sisters Chapel, and the Wisdom standing for Women in Spiritual Discernment of Ministry. Interim program director of the Women and Theology of Ministry track at Candler School of Theology, Emory University, and as archival assistant at the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change. Her research interests include Black preaching women's embodiment, African heritage, spiritual traditions, Black girls' ritual performance, and the relationship between digital proclamation and spiritual formation. She has published articles like The Making of Digital Griots and Cyber Assemblies, and the Digital Hush Harbors, Black Preaching Women and Black Digital Religious Networks. Each address the politics of location and challenge traditional Black church pulpit authority. Dr. Melva's published sermons appear in the final collection of Dr. Ella Pearson Mitchell, Those Preaching Women, a multicultural edition, and The Sky is Crying, Race, Class, and Natural Disaster. She is a leading practitioner in digital Black religion and is a creator of the Pink Robe Chronicles, an online spiritual gathering that circumvents, interlace oppressive religious structures, doctrines, and theologies by utilizing womanist and Afrocentric, Afrofuturist values of resistance, recovery, and reflection to curate a liberated and transformative faith-centered community of practice. Since 2016, Dr. Melva has live streamed over 300 digital sermons and engaged thousands across Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. In October of 2022, y'all hear me now, October of 2022, the Smithsonian National Museum for African American History and Culture acquired and accessioned artifacts from Pink Robe Chronicles into the museum collection. The digital files consist of 4 Pink Robe Chronicle sermons. Hear me now. Go back and get it. Fight the Power, Press, Prune, and Praise, and Wrestling with God. This collection is included in the museum's archives, which hosts more than 50,000 artifacts and will be used in its research and exhibits. Dr. Melva earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in History and Political Science from Virginia Union University, a Master of Arts in Mass Communication from Howard University, a Master of Divinity from Candler School of Theology, Emory University, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Religion with a concentration in homiletics. That is a preaching sister, y'all, from the Graduate School Division of Religion, Emory University. She has taught at Emory University Interdenominational Theological Center, ITC, and is currently on the faculty at Wake Forest University School of Divinity. Reverend Dr. Sampson currently working on her first book length project entitled Going Live, Black Women Preaching in a Digital Age. OM to the GG. Come on through, my sister. Come on through. Amen. Amen. Woo! This is a show, but I'm saying amen, amen, and ashe. Come and tell the people what you're doing and what you're doing currently and greet your people. I mean, I love you. I appreciate you being here and being a part of Leadership on the Go. I had to read that whole thing. I normally don't, but I didn't want nobody to miss anything about She's a Bad Mama Jama. Go ahead.
Ashe. Oh, well, thank you. Reverend Victoria. Thank you, Dr. Donalson, for having me to the Essentials Unleashed community, to Leadership on the Go. Greetings to you. I bring you greetings from the Pink Robe Chronicles Digital Hush Harbor, our spiritual gathering that meets every Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, both on Facebook Live and our YouTube page. I invite you to subscribe to the Pink Robe Chronicles Instagram as well as to our YouTube page. What am I doing now? I'm glad to be here. As the elder would say, I'm glad to be in the number one more time, Ashe. I am currently, as you said, working, finishing up on my book length project. Tentatively, the tentative title is Going Live. There's another title that I'm working with that I'll save for when it is fully complete, around what it looks like, or not what it looks like, around Black women, Black preaching women in the digital age. And these women are theologically expansive. They are technologically savvy. And they are engaging in spiritual formation and creating communities in ways that we get from our foreparents, right? And how the digital stage has is just an alternative space, another space where we engage in truth telling and in wisdom bearing. That is what I'm doing. I am working on building our community, making sure that we all have what we need, supporting those others who are also, as a result of their being a part of our community, who are inspired like what you're doing with Essentials Unleashed, what others are doing and have already been doing. For instance, our mutual colleague, Dr. Irie Session, Reverend Dr. Irie Session, who, along with her co-pastor, Reverend Dr. Camila Hall Sharp, who pastored the gathering there in Dallas, Texas, but particularly Dr. Irie, who's been on these virtual platforms for just as long as I have, doing her leadership. And we give thanks for her. I see she's in the house. Shout out also to the Pink Robe Chronicles Digi Deacon, Natasha Robinson Esquire. She is the founder of Legalese Please, and she is a legal analyst on Court TV. And so why am I naming all of these people when you ask me what I'm doing? Because it is Ubuntu for me, right?
Yes.
And I totally believe that we are inextricably linked, that my space and place is absolutely tied to the space and place of my siblings. And so I'm doing whatever they're doing. One of my pastors used to say, when people ask you, what is the church doing about X, Y, and Z? And he would say, you should tell them, what are you doing about X, Y, and Z? Because wherever we are, wherever the church is, wherever the spirit is, certainly we are there together.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. And thank you for naming some of my friends as well. I love it that we are all into Ubuntu. I am because you are. And so thank you for naming that. So I'm going to get started with our conversation, right? I'm so excited because the people want to hear. And we're going to start off with some basic stuff. And so my first question to you is going to be kind of lengthy, but I'm going to break it up. So
Okay.
I used to ask it all at one time, and then I had to break it up. So as it relates to being a leader, particularly a leading Black woman, how did you get here at this place in your life right now? In essence, who are you?
How did I get here to this place, and who am I? I want to enter into this space by acknowledging who I am. I am Shay Melva Lanice Sampson. I am the daughter of Norvell. I am the granddaughter of Inez. I am the great-granddaughter of Mamie. I am the great-great-granddaughter of Addie. I am the great-great-granddaughter of Diana, all from South Georgia, from the Tifton, Georgia area. I named the women specifically on purpose, not that I'm forgetting the men or the brothers, but there's a particular reason why I name the women, because I know that it is that I stand on their shoulders in a particular way, and that my identity is so wrapped up into who they prayed me to be. It is wrapped up in who they saw me as Hebrews, I think it's around 11:13 says, is that they saw it in the distance, right? That I know that my ancestors saw me in the distance, and so I begin, right? But I'm also the parent to Free Nafisa Joy and Phoenix Imani Rose, and that is important because all of that shapes, I'm a partner, right? I'm a colleague, I'm a friend, I'm a sister girl, I'm a homie, I'm all of these things. But I think more about what my mother gives to me as a family name. And that is, I started with Shay. Shay is not on my birth certificate, but the moment that I was birthed, my mom started to call me Shay, and Shay after Che Guevara, who is the revolutionary who often fought the Cuban, Chilean-born Cuban revolutionary Che Guevara. And my mother says that I came to revolutionize. I came to this side of time to save her life and to make sure that the revolution would actually start. And so I think in the most, I guess, plain terms, that, you know, I'm a revolutionary, that I'm coming to liberate, right? It is indeed, I'm coming to set the captives free. And what I know to be true, though, right, even in saying that, is those things come with consequences. To show up in the world in a particular way means that you are ready to accept a particular set of consequences. And so I acknowledge that. I stand in who I am. I stand on my name because names are important. I stand on the work of Mama Itihari Toure Ashe,
Yes.
who is my living elder, who has guided me, who walks with me alongside my own birth mother and partner and family members. And we both stand on the witness and the work of Mama Sabonfu Some, who in her various texts of Falling Out of Grace, welcoming the spirit home. She talks about names, and I want to sort of wrap this part of my answer up in this way. Mama Sabonfu talks about how within her village of Burkina Faso, West Africa, within the Dagara people, that naming is important, that the ritual of naming, that it is the elder who goes to the parent who is carrying the child, and that elder then listens to the child to see what the child is saying or to whom the child will come out as. And then when the child is birthed, then the elder waits for a few more days to identify the child's name. Upon seeing who the child is and how the child shows up in the world, then the elder assigns the name after doing ritual and in communion with the spirit and the birthing parent. The elder then assigns the child a name. This name is not just, sort of this name made up or something that we reached out in the sky to give. This name is attached, excuse me, this name is attached to the person's purpose. So therefore, then it means that the elders and the entire community knows the name of the person, so that when the person grows up and begins to live the person's life, that if for some reason the person strays from his, her, or their identity, that the way their identity is called back is when the elders say their names.
Oh, wow.
So it is an important question when you ask who you are, right? It is important for not only for me to know who I am, it is important for my community to know who I am. So at any moment when I am straying beyond what my sacred agreement has been, from eternity into time, for what I agreed that I would do on this side of time, coupled with my name that is my purpose in action, then automatically it brings me back into a space of clarity when you say my name, and my name is directly attached to my identity. I am a revolutionary.
I am a revolutionary. Listen, that was phenomenal. I think in the 2 years of Essentials Unleashed, this is the first time I've heard someone explain who they are in that context, and it is marvelous. Let me ask you the next one then, because you already answered some of my questions. So let me ask you then, in that naming, why are you here and where are you going from here?
Listen, I am here, as I believe we all are here. I believe we all are revolutionaries when we tap in.
When we tap in.
Right? The issue is that many of us have tapped out. And there are reasons why we've tapped out, right? Ashe. There are many reasons why. Some of them are reasons of our own doing. Some of them are as a result of empire. Some of them are as a result of homophobia and heterosexism. Some of them are as a result of other interlocking systems of oppression. But we all tap into this side of time to revolutionize. That's where I'm going. Where am I going in terms of the work that I'm doing now? I am really moving beyond tradition. Tradition has its place. We honor tradition. We give thanks for tradition. Tradition has with it a particular nostalgia. We can memorialize tradition. The problem that I have is when we idolize tradition. When tradition becomes so much of the idol that we can't move from where we are, so then we don't know where we're going, because this has become so much of the idol, because really this is all we know. And so even for me in the work that I've been doing and in curating this spiritual gathering in this digital space, that has opened the doors, not because I was the first ones, but absolutely because I've been a consistent presence, a consistent voice, right? And so when I say where are we going, we are going beyond brick and mortar. we are going beyond brick and mortar, because what now we know to be true because of spaces like Pink Road Chronicles, we know that we've been, look, I'm gonna say it like this, we've been had metaverse. the digital Hush Harbor, the Hush Harbor was our first metaverse. The Maroon communities in the South was our first metaverse. The Quilombos in Brazil was our first metaverse. Metaverses are not new to us. Ashe. And so it is important, as I look to cast my vision, both my vision and my net, beyond, that I am guided by our ancestors, by our collective ancestors, and by my individual ancestors. And so I may not tell you like on October 31st at 10 a.m. I'm going to be here, but I know that my direction is always towards freedom.
Woo! My direction is always towards freedom. Listen, I love that part about, that we're all revolutionaries. And I agree with you. However, some of us we don't become revolutionaries, what I heard, unless you tap in, but some people have tapped out. That I'm just going to defer over to Dr. Donalson. I'm done. I'm just done with that.
I'm just drinking in the water, the refreshing, the joy. I'm thrilled. I really have a conversation about the sense of the prophetic that is your work. And when I say prophetic, I'm really talking about the prophet as one who holds up the folly of a time, and shows a community a picture of a preferred future. And that's really the work that I have observed you doing throughout the years. I'm curious, as you do this prophetic work in this digital space, what are some of the unique challenges in leading a prophetic work within the realm of the digital space, specifically as a Black woman leader? I really want to hear from you the unique challenges that come with prophetic work in digital space.
That's a good question. And I've really been thinking about it, because initially, particularly in the way that my writing and my work is really not lifting up the challenges at all. I'm actually suggesting that this is the space where we get to usurp sort of the religious hierarchy and tradition, where we absolutely get to be unapologetically prophetic in this space, right? That this space goes beyond religious hierarchy, that this space really goes beyond Christian hegemony, that in this space, even that the prophetic is not what the prophetic allows us to be, if I can just be so honest, it allows us to identify as spiritually fluid. Some of us I understand and identify as sexually fluid, but what does it mean for us to acknowledge our spiritual fluidity, to move beyond sort of to move beyond these very rigid lines, and how we have been socialized. And so it is I have to think more about what challenges are, but I guess for one that's coming immediately is people tend to challenge the validity.
Yeah.
People tend to challenge the validity of virtuality. Come on, Melva, this is good. This is good.
Come on, girl.
As if it's not really real, because it's
not a brick and mortar.
If you can't feel this anointing through this screen, get out of here. You feel it? You see it? You do. Every Sunday, we are tapped in every single Sunday. So there is this notion that she's not really doing real work. She ain't really, she on her, hey, Natasha, is she doing her Facebook thingy? That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Now, see, I just needed to sit through it, Apostle, for a second. Dr. Donalson, I needed to just kind of sit through. Yeah, that's it. It is the lack of respect for the foresight.
Yes.
That is required, and for the courage to show yourself plain, open, and raw. It is called Pink Robe Chronicles because initially, now I wear a little lip gloss, I got my little earrings on and stuff, you blow up a little bit, you got to come a little differently. But initially, it was my dingy, tattered, old pink robe. It was no lip gloss. It was bedhead in the morning. And then Reverend Victoria gave me the bomb pink clergy robe that I rock. And people are like, oh, she even got a pink clergy robe. Oh my God. Yes, friends. And so the what was behind that was to say, this pink robe is my priestly vestment.
Mm. Mm.
This robe right here, this little tattered thing up right here that some folks wouldn't wear. So here I come every morning without any preparation, placing myself before the people, opening myself up, which opening myself for some to be ridiculed, for others to be praised. But I'm simply saying, I know that, well, I won't answer that because you're getting ready to ask me that in a few. So let me save that answer down there. Opening myself in a way, right, that others find attractive, not because they find me attractive, because they find the truth attractive.
Yes.
Whoa. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
It's not me. They are attracted to the truth in me. They are attracted to the truth in them that they want to get out. So the challenge is for those who work in brick and mortar and traditional ministry settings to stop marginalizing those who are working in virtual spaces and to really recognize that we have given them the ultimate layup, that we held them down during COVID, that there is only a sanctuary to come back to because we were holding you down while you were trying to figure it out.
Woo! Lord Jesus. Listen, somebody gonna have to tie me to this chair. This is ridiculous. I'm telling you, you are on fire, and I am loving this. And that was a very, very good question, Dr. Donalson. Thank you. But I want to come with a follow-up question, some of your answers. Listen, I got so many questions. I'm sitting over here writing. But when you talk about spiritual fluidity, because the LGBT community always have had to deal with this whole notion of sexual fluidity, and the church. But when you talk about spiritual fluid, okay, that I'm getting tongue-tied right now. But I want to also tap into, because you talked about when people tapped out. What advice do you have for leaders or people on this listening to this platform who might be stuck or tapped out because of tradition or not, or a turning point in their life and need to shift without feeling or being apologetic?
So my answer is going to be unconventional, and it is what my answer is rooted in what we've been working through in Pink Robe Chronicles in our gathering. And I'm going to lift up Trisha's book, Rest is Resistance. Trisha Hersey, this now is a book that is number 4 on the New York Times bestseller list. Shout out to you, Trisha. I think every leader should be reading this book. Every person who says they want to decolonize anything should be reading this book. What I say to leaders then is you need rest. Well, this is why you're tapped out. According to Trisha, I'm going to paraphrase. According to Trisha, you're tapped out because you've been too tapped into grind culture. Your grind culture is connected to capitalism. And while we have all been fed this, you don't eat if you don't work. The other thing that's tied to is Black excellence. Ouch. Because all the leaders, the Black ones at least, are trying to operate hashtag in Black excellence. But Black excellence is what's going to kill you. Why? Because Black excellence is only predicated on the fact that dominant culture or something white supremacist and anti-Black told you that you weren't already excellent. What happens if you work from the premise that I'm already excellent? Well, let's come all the way back then. Then we're hinged on this doctrine of original sin that already sees this flesh as a problem, right? So it's not far-fetched for us to then take with this white supremacist, anti-Black, anything antithetical to the goodness of our bodies, to the goodness of our sexuality. And then we sort of move ourselves in a way that if we could just work work hard enough, if we could just show up early enough, right? Because that's what many of us have been taught. If we could just show up early enough, if we could just get the right grade, we could move in the right neighborhood, if we could get the right degree, if we could go to the right school, we could write the right book, all of the if. But guess what? You ain't gonna never out white folk. You just not get ready to do it. You're never going to empire the empirical system. You're just never going to do it. So what does it mean for us to build our own? And then we can only build our own when we've rested enough, according to Trisha, when we have rested enough to tap into our inner knowing. The reason why leaders have tapped out is because their well is empty. Their well is empty. There is no water for them to draw from. There is no, they are parched. They are in a desert and they are thirsty. And the only thing that continues to give them the water is the same thing that's killing them.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So I have to ask this follow-up question, because you keep referencing the interlocking systems of oppression, imperialism, anti-Blackness, capitalism, cis heteropatriarchy, right? You list these interlocking systems of oppression that serve to further and further marginalize particular identities and embodiments. So then my question, as you talk about working away from the idea of Black excellence toward an idea of Black rest, what would you have done differently in your journey coming to this point?
Woo, come on, Dr. Donalson. Let me tell you what I did do differently.
Okay.
If I can just hold on. Hold 1 second. Reverend Victoria, come on and ask me what's my superpower. Just ask me that right now so I can get this out so I can answer.
See, this is the disadvantage of sending folks questions that we're going to ask.
Right? Ask me this now so that I can respond to his question.
Okay, let me go ahead and ask you the question I was going to ask you towards the end. Right. What is your superpower, woman?
Shay, my superpower is authenticity.
Yes.
My superpower is transparency. It requires that I'm vulnerable, and vulnerability doesn't always feel safe, but it's absolutely brave. I often put myself out there a lot, and then sometimes have remorse of oversharing. But then I receive messages like, oh my goodness, we needed to hear that. I needed to say that. I needed folks to know what my superpower is so that I can answer this question honestly in terms of what would you have done differently. So I'm going to answer it like this. I would not do anything differently within the last, since the COVID pandemic and the shutdown.
Sure.
And here's why. I received a book grant from a very reputable institution to do a first book award. I was excited to do this work. COVID happened. My spouse and I have 2 children. School closed down. Work closed down. My spouse was here. I was here. So the year that I was supposed to be writing, everybody was in the house. We were sous chefs. We were IT professionals. We were mental health advocates while we were still trying to be parents and lovers. We were still also children. We both have parents that are still living. And I just started to rest. I didn't know that that's what was happening, but in my attempt to produce, because I'm in a tenure track situation, in my attempt to produce, my body was saying, we can't even do that right now. And why was my body saying that? I said this last week on Pink Robe Chronicles, and so this is just a reshare for those of you who already know Dr. Jamie. I said that, and just spare me just a few seconds, y'all, to just really set this up for you. I said that because I had to walk back to 2009. I started the PhD program literally to the day 6 weeks after giving birth. That's not a brag. That's a confession.
Mm. Mm.
I don't suggest that. That's a confession, as in maybe that I had a fear of missing out on what I believe my future would be if I did not pause long enough to take care of myself and to take care of my body. So here I am sitting in the middle of an academic classroom, breasts literally engorged and leaking, trying to pump milk and then store milk so that I can take milk home to a 6-week-old baby to feed her, while all along suffering with anxiety, performance anxiety, because there are those in the classroom, Dr. Donalson, who are posturing. Posturing is the operative term here. They are posturing as if they know, but they don't know like I don't know. But there is a way that whiteness shows up. There is a way that gender politics shows up that can make folk who might be identified as others feel a certain way. And so instead of pausing, what did I do? I pushed through. I push through. Come on, woman with the issue of blood. I'm going to push through and I'm going to tell my truth and I'm going to tell my entire truth. But the problem with that is, in pushing through, I am not Margaret Connolly. I am normativizing or normalizing my trauma. I've not even given my body a moment to pause. So now I'm moving through all of the things that you got to move through, y'all. I'm going to just tell the truth. Look, I took the comps. I failed 2 of them. I had to retake 2 of them, but I passed 4 and yet was told that I needed to keep it a secret. Trauma in the body. I went up for jobs. I was finalist for positions, didn't get the positions, told you need to keep it a secret. Trauma in the body, right? All of this trauma, all of this all up and around, because in these positions, in these leadership positions, the system only progresses through secrecy. But the minute we start sharing, the minute we start exposing, the minute we start talking, we become a problem. And so fast forward all the way up until 2020, I had not taken a break. And here it was that I had been given money to produce. But from where was I going to produce? And there is a difference between producing and creating. My God, today. Hey! I'm called to create, not to produce. Producing something is not the same as creating something. Creating takes a level, according to Trisha, of inner knowing. Creating requires a relationship, a continuous relationship between me, between time, between eternity. Creating requires me to future myself. Come on, Afrofuturism. Creating requires me to see beyond and to be an open portal. Producing has to do with me mimicking a system that is vile, mimicking and then receiving validation for a system that has never seen me as valid or worthy in the first place.
Woo! Jesus.
So good.
And so, what would I do differently? I rested. I done paid for it. Oh, it's some consequences that came with that. Some that I'm still grieving. Some that I am still, that are hard to accept. But here's what I know now through therapy. If 2020 came again, I would still rest. Because... and I'm quoting Trisha so heavily because this book is Bible. Because she said capitalism and grind culture cannot have my body. Woo. You cannot have me. I'm pausing here and I'm full because I'm thinking of the words of Ntozake Shange and of course her well-known choral poem for color girls who consider suicide when the rainbow is enough. And that next to the last poem, choral poem, where she says, somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff.
Mm.
And left me standing there. Who? She says, who was I? Excuse my language, but this is the text. She said, and when I looked in the mirror, who did I see? Some simple bitch looking back at me. Somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff. So to your point, Dr. Donalson, I not answering questions about what I would have done differently in a system that does not validate me.
Mm.
Because I already see myself in the beginning as whole. You don't make me whole. I'm whole when I came through the canal.
Woo!
You no longer, I don't care what the system is. I'm no longer internalizing what others believe to be valuable. And then because if I don't make it through whatever this system might be, then I somehow internalize that I'm not worthy. The devil is a lie. And that's why I'm dangerous.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
And that's why I'm dangerous. That's also why I'm an outlier, though.
Yeah.
That's also why I'm and to your point, and it gets lonely. It gets lonely. You don't get certain kinds of invitations, even when you might want them. Even, when you see things like, oh, I want to go there. Oh, that would be good. I know. You girl. And then the spirit be like, you ain't going there, boo. They not inviting you. Why, spirit? Because they're not too sure what you might say.
Yes.
Yeah. They don't know what you might say over there, Mike. Child, they can't be risking that with you. Mm-hmm. They can't be. They not. It's a no. You're not going there. Right. And so then to your point, I have to do what Mama E.T. Hari says. I have to then do what? I have to surround myself with a community that is strong enough to hold my truth.
Yes.
See, when some of us really decide that we about to really just step into it, we have to, the way that we silence, that means that we're going to have to find new communities. Yeah. Because even the community that you believe is liberated ain't liberated.
You better say that.
I'm just saying. And I'm talking to you all as my siblings, right? So I've been to some services. I've been to some services. I've been to some services, LGBT plus, denominational services. And I'm sometimes sitting there thinking to myself, I'm really confused because I thought the goal was to be free. And I don't know how this tragic theology followed y'all.
Come on now.
But yet here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are, spouting the same things.
Yes.
Doing the same thing, is just in a different location. Yeah, here we are. But that'll cause you to, again, why they always so negative? Why they don't have nothing good to say about the church? I didn't say that. Let me tell you something. The Black church is where I cut my teeth. The Black church is where I learned how to be a leader. The Black church is where I learned how to speak publicly and extemporaneously by doing my Easter speech, by fumbling some of the words and then recovering quickly, by being asked to say the prayer during teen youth revival without any prior notice and just having to get up there by taking instruction as a junior usher, learning what the signs mean, by realizing that, oops, I'm not allowed to walk across the pulpit because women are up, but I'm already up. Listen, the Black church is where I have learned how to be a leader.
Yes.
Yes, God.
Yes.
It is a call and a response. And at the same time, because it is my birthplace, who other than me, than you, has the right to call it when it has strayed?
Lord have mercy. Listen. I'm telling you, I just can't keep up. I'm telling you, I got so many copious notes that I'm scratching because you setting me free about some things, and I consider myself really free, but you setting me free in some other areas that I thought I was free in, right? And if people want to tell the truth on here, they will say, so you are setting us free. Listen, I want to do a follow-up question. You talked about some things that have caused you pain, right? Can you share a specific experience that took you from trial to triumph? If you don't mind being transparent with a specific experience?
The question. My producer is sitting here, but I have my earplugs in so he can't hear. So I'm gonna repeat this question. The question is for me to talk about a specific incident where I moved from trial to triumph. So Pink Robe Chronicles started in 2016. I served at a church that I love dearly, that I still have love for. It was a lot going on at the time. I had been invited to preach, and something happened. I still to this day don't know fully what happened, but I know something happened, and it had to do with my voice, not the mere sound of my voice, but the way my voice shows up. And the male pastor called and basically said, "I'm going to preach instead." And only to find out that there were two women in the church who had gone to him and said, "We don't want to hear Melva anymore." And I was so deeply wounded because I'm thinking, my entire ministry, my work, everything, my being is toward the liberation of Black folk broadly and Black women specifically. What does it mean for Black women to say, "I don't want to hear your voice"? At the same time, Corinne Gaines, the young African-American woman out of Baltimore, was murdered by the Baltimore police. They had a warrant for her arrest. They stormed her home, and she was bearing arms, which was her right as a sovereign citizen. They commanded that she put her weapons down, and she told them, "You put your weapons down." And she was streaming this partially on Facebook Live. Shots ensued, and they fired, and shots hit her and ultimately killed her and grazed her son, her 2-year-old son that she was holding on her hip. That next Sunday came, and I was supposed to be in church, but I was so wounded by the treatment of Black women that I decided to stay home and make chicken and dumplings instead. As I was making the dough, because we'll make no biscuit dumplings around here, no shade, but as I was rolling the dough, I began to receive these lessons. I'm answering your question, but I began to receive these lessons, these messages, these downloads, ancestral downloads from my grandmother, these life lessons that she was telling me about, because I had to keep, sometimes the dough would get too dry and I would have to put a little water on it. Sometimes the dough would get too moist and stick to the rolling pin and I would have to put some flour on it. And she was saying to me, "This is how you're going to have to move around in life, right? That life is this rolling pin and you are the dough." And so I'm going live. This is the first or second time that I've gone live. It was the most painful experience, one of the most painful experiences, not to be able to do what I believed I was called to do. Fast forward to 2022. For some colleagues, both in the academy and both in ministry, who struggle to identify what I do as a practical theologian, what I do as an African-centered Afrofuturist, womanist, homiletician, and practical theologian, who struggle to see what I do. The academicians believe that I'm not academic enough. And the practitioners believe that I'm not practical enough. So there is never really a true home. And then they question and challenge where are her publishings? Well, she does digital religion and digital Black religion. Well, then for me, it only makes sense that I'm publishing in digital journeys, friends, digital journals, friends. Come on, step up and come with these times. But then how is it that she can call herself, well, we believe that she is not quite scholarly enough? For had she been scholarly enough, then surely she would have published in these journals. But then in October, the Smithsonian rang.
Yes,
And
yes.
said, we have been trying to get these works for 2 years. We want to accession 4 sermons. Now, hear me, sermons aren't just not from me. Sermons aren't just these, little speeches, little Easter speeches that are put together, but this is my work. So when Teddy Reeves, the curator of religion at the National Museum for African American History and Culture, and said, because Melva, what you have been doing is the work. You have been breaking the digital ground, and we want to mark this moment in time. For me, the redemption, the validation was for the very people who said, we're not quite sure if she's scholarly enough. Come on, everybody in this live right now, raise your hand if you're in the Smithsonian. Me, raise your hand.
I love it.
If in perpetuity.
Mm.
If into perpetuity, you will go click here. And this movement that was started as a result of your pain, as a result of shame, is now documented. So our children's children. This is why I'm saying it's the system that's the problem. So if the system itself says you don't get to move through this stage because you didn't do this, but then the world's largest museum, education, and research complex says, I'm not.
So we're feeling you.
Yeah.
So that is from the trial to the triumph. And the point of that, friends, is that especially for leaders, you cannot get locked into whether or not a body is going to validate you as a leader. You got to already know that you're leading.
Yes.
That's why you're revolutionary.
Yes.
Because you're not looking for external validation. You know your validation. Can I say this to us? The ancestors trust me. They trust me because they know that I'm going to follow what they say. I might cuss about it. I might fuss about it. I might prolong. But ultimately, Dr. Jamie, I'm going to do what they say do. Ultimately, I'm going to do what they say do. And that's what see, a leader ain't a leader to me if a leader ain't dangerous in that way.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't no leader, child, friend. You a follower. You are a follower and you are comfortable in your captivity. And that is your address. And we are not the same.
So I would love to follow up with a question that ties in Victoria's last question and something you were saying just before that question. So I'm a bishop in TFAM, Fellowship of Affirming Ministries. I'm the senior bishop. I see some of my TFAM siblings are on the line. Pastor Sue Weebley, how are you? That's my sister, and I see her on the line, and others. You're a strong advocate for the LGBTQIA plus community. Because it changes, right?
See, I'm glad you said it. Yes.
It grows, right? Why is it important for Black women and the LGBTQIA plus community to work in concert? Now, let me put the caveat. Black women are a part of the community, but I'm specifically talking about women who don't identify as a part of the LGBTQIA community, Black women and the community, to work in concert toward a more just and humane world. Why is that important?
So for me, it goes back to what Bishop Desmond Tutu gives us in the philosophy of Ubuntu, this I am because you are, but I am really, I heard him talk about it in this way. It is really a little bit more nuanced than simply saying I am because you are. It is, if you are hurting, then I'm hurting. If you ask me how I slept last night and I said I didn't sleep well, that means that you didn't sleep well, that we are that linked, right? And so I really cannot future myself if I'm not futuring my siblings, right? And there is, I get it. There are, you know, I remember teaching classes. I taught this class called the Black Church and the Afrocentric Christian Idea. And in that particular class, there was this divide where some Black folk were frustrated with some Black LGBT plus folk because they felt like, oh, we're not talking about sexuality, we're talking about race. To which I was like, wrong. That's the okie doke. That's what that's what it wants you to do, is to separate, is to ration out our struggle for liberation and to compartmentalize. But we don't have time for compartments, especially when these compartments are already tragic from the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have time for those. We just don't have time for it. And so it is really important to me to make sure for us to be learning, for Black women who don't identify as LGBTQIA plus, for us to learn. I mean, so that means that I'm having conversations. That means that I have in this community that's strong enough to hold my truth. And this is really helpful, because this is something that I've often wanted to speak on. That means that members of the LGBT plus community, it is my request to make yourselves available to be in conversation with those of us who want to work with and who have who have questions for clarity, like to make sure that I'm using the right language and to tell me why this is the language that I should use, right? So it is not what sometimes, not all the time, certainly, but sometimes it has been my experience that I have been chastised if I said something wrong, or if I use the wrong terminology, that there is one wrong thing, right? And there's a way that we all have to deal with this cancel culture. Yeah. Oh, Melva Sampson, Pink Robe Chronicles is now a safe space for queer people. Where you get that from? Who told you? That's not even true. I mean, it cannot be true. Like this is not even who I am. And so there are ways in which, in our attempt to gain our liberation, that we become so rigid about who we want to share our truths and who we want to, and that's really a trauma response. That rigidity is a trauma response, and who we want to share our truths, that we close out any opportunity. Some of us really just need to know and learn because no one has told us, or we've been embarrassed to ask, or people have perceived us as being so woke. We embarrassed to say, okay, well, this part I really don't know about right here. And I just need a little bit of point of clarity right here. I really don't know for real. Only to learn when I'm talking to some siblings, they be like, I don't know either, child. I don't know what that is. Like, I do not know what that is, right? And so it is super important because we are linked. We are children, all of us, of the great creator, of the sacred mothers, right? It is a fool to believe that we only need to focus on X, Y, on this X today. And you all know the adage, because if you come for this X today, you're coming for this Y tomorrow.
Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. So that we can move on, because we got a few more questions for you. And so the next follow-up is so we could bring the brothers in, because you talked about in the beginning why you didn't name the brothers, and that was very rich. What does support from Black men look like in a womanist framework?
So I am married to a Black man. I want to lead in by saying that because he is womanist. He may not ever say I'm womanist. You may not ever hear him say that he is womanist, but the way that he shows up for myself and for our daughters is absolutely womanist. What does that mean? As you all can see, I show up in the world in a particular way. It takes a particular type of person to be partnered with me. One that is not engaged in toxic masculinity, that is not intimidated by the largesse, if you will, of my personality, of my vocabulary, even like physically of my hips. You understand what I'm saying? It takes one who is sound and secure, who is not challenged by the fact of thinking that why is she so out in the open? Why is she, but someone who is concerned like me with the survival of an entire community, someone who has the same commitments with me, who sees our LGBTQ IA plus siblings as our siblings, not as this, but as our siblings, who has the same desire for equity and equality. And so it is important for men identified folk to show up, because Black women have always shown up for you.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Thank you for that.
That is so rich. The work that you do, and I can imagine it is not just your cost, but it is also your partner's cost. It is also your daughter's cost, right? We don't do any of this work in isolation, any of us. Right? So whoever we're in covenant with, we're also in community with, also pay the cost. Can you share with us how you've navigated disappointment, and even how you've navigated the disappointment of those attached to you? It's not just an internal thing, but your village, your immediate village. How do you navigate disappointment?
Whoo, y'all is deep tonight. My God, I need to have my therapist on speed dial. Yeesh, sheesh. So there's so many entry points. I'm just wanting to slow down for a minute to see which door I should move through. So our daughters have been really up close with me in this doctoral journey, in the appointment to Wake. They have heard up close and personal my frustrations, my disappointments. I remember one time I was like, oh, I found my dissertation topic, only I was doing some kind of search, or somebody sent me something and it was similar to what I was saying I wanted to do. And I just broke down and started crying. And our daughter, our eldest, I think at that time she could have been like around 7 or 8. She was like, Mommy, don't cry. She said, it's okay, because only you could do what you gonna do. And I thought, that's right, baby girl. And so I wrote about that experience and others in an article. I can't remember what it was called. I think it's I'm tired, but I want to be well, in the feminist wire. And it was about the ways that I was seeing our daughter trying to stretch to fit in. So she was at daycare age at that time, and she has curly, kinky hair, but then if you blow it out, it's really long, and then as soon as that humidity hits it, it shrinks up. And so there was a person in her class who had long black curly hair. And so one day our daughter was trying to pull her little afro down, and I said, what you doing? And she said, I'm trying to stretch my hair, like she named the classmate. And I was like, what? Why are you trying to stretch your hair? No, you got to love your hair like it is, love your hair like it grows out your head. And she said, but Mommy, you be trying to stretch too. And I said, how? She said, when they tell you they don't like how you wrote something, and then you be trying to figure out how to stretch into that.
Ooh.
Wow.
Oh my. Oh my. What say you? Which is where I initially came up with the hashtag and the title of some other work called Raising Womanish Girls. So it has been in those moments where I identify them seeing me, right? And asking myself, how am I showing up? Like, what am I showing them? Right. And in terms of like my spouse, that like, my spouse needs all the awards, and I'm not just saying that because he's sitting in front. I'm saying that because, listen, leaders, let's let's say the truth and shame the devil. I mean, we are grown on here, so let's just talk about it, right? You know, you're leading, you are, and Trisha gives us this, you are resting. So Trisha in her book says that we are resting because it is our divine right to do so. We are not resting so that we can produce labor. Right. But oftentimes we rest to produce labor. So we're resting so that I can get up and finish and do something else. And in that rest, I remember writing this as a post when I finished comps, like, shout out to the nights that you had to sleep by yourself. To the nights when you tried to give me intimate touch and I turned you away because I had to sleep so that I could get up and not attend to both of us, but attend to this deadline over here. To moments when you see so much in me, when you see me beyond my ability to see myself, and I can see in your face that you only wish that I knew just how great I am, that I could tell, you know, in the tenor of your voice that you wish that I could just get a small inkling to be able to recognize that I am worthy, that I am well able, that I see the frustration in your face when you see just how much a process, some of these processes have chipped away at my inner being to the point where it makes me second guess, even in my revolutionary status, the ways that I have to wonder, am I smart enough? Will I be welcome? Am I invited to it? Will they get me? And you look at me and you're saying, damn, I wish you could just see, like, you, hell yeah, you already here, friend. And so being up close and personal to that makes me remember and recognize, certainly we don't move through these processes by ourselves.
That's right. That's right.
That it is oftentimes our partners, our children, our folks closest around us who have to advocate for us, who have to be gatekeepers, keeping people at bay so they don't get up on us, so they can't even see when our edges is so raggedy. Hey. It's them, and they get the residual. Oftentimes they get what's left over. They don't even often get sort of, you know, that fire, that passion, you know. Can I talk for a minute, y'all? I just, you know, they get the sloppy sex. They get the, you know, here you go, here, friend, just get this, and, you know, amen, somebody. They don't even, and so this leaders, because this is a part of the leadership conversation, right?
Yes.
This is a part of the leadership conversation. Your business life is straight, but your inner life is raggedy. It's raggedy. And that's the problem with capitalism, Carmen. The problem with capitalism is that because if we don't work, we don't eat, then we think that all we ever have to do is grind.
Yes.
And in that grinding, we lose our humanity. And without our humanity, we forego intimacy.
Yes.
I ain't talking just about like the physical act of sex.
Yes.
I'm talking about simple intimacy, like come on and rub my eyebrows and just tell me something nice about myself, or like I'm just let me touch your feet with my feet. I mean, you understand? There is a way in which these systems dehumanize us, y'all.
Yes.
Yes.
They dehumanize us and they make us machines. Because even our ancestors, in the most heinous of moments, their resistance was that they still was going to jump somebody's broom. Now, you might be breeding me over here, but when I get back to this here compound right here, this is who got my heart right here. You can't control that. Yeah, I say.
So let me chime in with a follow-up question in this, since you're right here. How do you empower, or we empower, other leaders when you talk about capitalism and this whole system, right? And how the system is dehumanizing us? Then how do you or we empower other leaders to disarm them from the stigmas and the capitalism and the system to fully be themselves?
You tell the truth. See, the issue for me is that not all of us are willing to tell the truth. Now, some people say, Melva, you can tell the truth. But my problem with you is you got to, have your truth on display. Like, you don't have to tell everybody your business. That's slavery, right? That's, you don't control me.
Right.
You don't control my emotions. I say what I want to say when I want to say it, how I want to say it. That's called freedom. That's called liberation, right? And if it makes you uncomfortable, I feel like you need to check why it's making you uncomfortable. Like, just exactly what is it that is making you have this discomfort? And so my, disarming is to tell folks the truth about what the journey really is. So when people ask me, oh, Dr. Sampson, I really want to do a PhD, do you have some time to talk? Yeah. My question is, so what kind of quality of life are you interested in? How old are you? See, because I will never forget, and what the elders say, keep living. See, when these things happen, what I'm about to say happened, initially I had an attitude about it. But on this end of it, I get it. I remember asking Dr. Jackie Grant, she said, oh, you want to do a PhD? Yes, ma'am. And at that time I was probably, I don't know if I had to be like maybe 36. And I said, yeah, I want to do a PhD. And she said, oh, well, she hit me with the age, like you should consider. And I went back like, see, that's what I'm talking about these womanists, these older womanists. They ain't trying to see that we can have it all. We could do this and we could do that. The same thing Dr. Cannon asked me. She said, oh, y'all young people think y'all could do it all. Y'all think y'all could be married. Y'all thinking, and I'm like, well, isn't this what isn't this what you fought for me to be able to do it all? Boom, 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 boom. Here's what they were really asking me that I see now. Baby, this thing wants to take your life. Do you have enough of it to give? What is the quality of life you desire? How do you want to live out the next 10, 15, even 20 years of your life? And then if we would tell the truth, for those of us, here's the other caveat, y'all. We got to for those of us who spent time and put all of our time in our career or our vocation. There was a moment when my spouse and I had a major crisis in our relationship, and one of my direct reports, shout out to you, Reverend Dr. Lisa Rose, said to me at that stage, she said, Melva, I'm not saying that what you're dealing with is not serious. She said, but I want to offer you this. At this stage and age, I wish that the things that I said were deal breakers, or the things that I said ain't nobody ever, are not that serious on this end. And here I am, not married, not having children, not da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I wish that somebody would have told me the truth. I wish that somebody would have told me, go home. I wish somebody would have told me it's going to be here tomorrow. I wish somebody would have told me that there's a way for you to balance this, but you need to put a little bit more time over here. And so that's what I would tell. That's what I'm telling folks. What's your quality of life? What are you ready? Because if you're saying you want to do this and this, I'm telling you that one of these things, they both could happen, but one of them is going to suffer. And that's the truth. So I want to arm people with the truth so that they can make the informed decisions.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. We're almost finished, but Dr. Donalson got a more impactful question he wants to ask.
Certainly.
I don't know if it's more impactful, but certainly am curious. How do you measure destiny, legacy, and success?
If when I die, my name continues to be spoken, I trust that I will hear it in whatever realm I'm in, and then I will know that I have been successful, that I have created legacy.
Ashe. So what final words would you like to tell our viewers? And again, I want to say to our viewers, we are we have up, or we had up, and we'll put it back up. If you want to bless this woman of God, if you've been blessed, I know you have been blessed. Please pour into her bosom, pour into her spirit, pour into her like you have never poured before. Why? It will come back to you 100-fold, I promise you. And so if we can just put that up, Venmo, Melva Sampson, Zelle, Dr. Melva Sampson at gmail.com. We can put it also in the chat if we can. And so listen, what final words do you want to leave with our leaders or leadership? Because you said so much rich stuff tonight. Oh my God. I got notes here, but I just want to, I don't even want to ask anything. I just want to leave it to you to say what you want to say before we leave. And after you say that, I have an announcement that I need everyone to hear, all my viewers to hear. And so, because I've been asked a lot of questions and I need to talk to you. All right. So Dr. Melva, take us on out with, what do you want to say as a final word to the people?
Especially I will. And if there are any questions, you can put it in a chat and I will, or you can inbox me on Facebook or Instagram if you have questions that we weren't able to get to. What do I want to leave you with? I want to leave you with what I shared in Pink Robe Chronicles on this morning. Yesterday, sometimes I need background noise when I'm working. And so I found this series on Apple TV called Mosquito Coast, I believe it was. And there was one episode. It's a whole drawn out story, but there's a part in this series where these people are needing to have a coyote to take them across the border into Mexico, not from Mexico to the US, but from the US into Mexico. And so they needed to hide in this abandoned building. And when they got into the building, there was a corpse there in the building. And so as this, group, they were running out of water. And so they started patting this corpse down, searching to see if there was anything useful for their journey. And when they looked to the right of the corpse, there was a canteen that still had water in it. So this corpse is there, but this right next to the corpse is a canteen that has water in it. And the character says in the series, he said, wow. He said, would you look at this? Sometimes people think if I could just go an extra step, if I could just make it an extra mile, then that's what I'm going to do. Not realizing that the very thing that will save their life is already in their hand. That the thing that would have saved this corpse's life, among other things, is the water. But the person, right, was trying to conserve water, right, believing that this is what I need to get me to so I'm not going to drink it, and ultimately ends up dying as a result of not using what was right there in the person's hand. And so my question earlier this morning, and my question that I leave you all with, is what is in your hand? What does it mean for you to look to the right to see what's in your hand? And I trust that when you look, you will find what you need. Stop believing that if you take the next step, if you would just take the next step, if you could just get to the extra mile, if I just get right here, this is when I'm going to take my sip of water. This is when I'm going to do what I really called to do. This is when I'm going to leave this position and go to this position. You possibly or likely won't make it to the next step because the habits are already problematic. What does it mean for you to look and see what is in your hand and recognize that this is here to bless me? Because here's the thing. I said this earlier too. You ain't never going to be saved enough for the system. You ain't ever going to be saved enough for church folk, ever. Ever. You ain't never going to be saved enough. So stop believing if you could just get this right, then maybe this going to happen. There are too many instances in sacred text that tell us it was the imperfections that liberated folk from the fear of death. And that's what salvation is. So go forth in your salvation and being liberated from the fear of multiple types of deaths, recognizing that what you have in your hand is the very thing that is going to bless you. I shall.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You have blessed us tonight. I'm going to put this on replay. Normally I wait a week. I think I'm going to do it 2 or 3 times this week because I think the people need to hear it. And if I don't do it every day, I don't care who gets mad, doggone it, because I have that kind of spirit that you have. So we definitely are spiritual sisters where, you know, and one of the things that somebody taught me is to be a revolutionary means you have to be a rebel. And rebel, I used to think of it as a bad thing because people always say, you're a rebel, you're a rebel. But it was Bishop Alex Bird who told me years ago in 2008, I'll never forget. And he said, don't be concerned with people calling you a rebel, because rebel is nothing but a catalyst for change. And Dr. Melva Sampson, you are a catalyst for change. And so you have been, you will be until the day that God calls you, right? And speaking of, well, before I make an announcement, Dr. Donalson, you are not a stranger to this platform. You have been with me. You've been blessing me on this platform for almost 2 years that I've been doing Essentials Unleashed Leadership on the Go. Can you leave us with some last minute words?
I want to say thank you to Reverend Dr. Sampson. Thank you, Victoria, for being the conduit to bring this conversation together. And a particular thank you to Reverend Dr. Sampson, who shared some of her truth in her experience. We'll never really know what it costs you to be you, but we are certainly the benefactors. And
yes,
with great humility and great grace that we say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Ashe. Oh, thank you so much.
I also have my producer, my friend who helps me through this time and season, Reverend Elder Dr. Parrish Harris. Can you bring yourself forward and offer some words of wisdom or whatever you want to say to our viewers and to Reverend Dr. Melva Sampson?
I just enjoyed you so much, Reverend Dr. Sampson. This interview, your responses were so enlightening, authentic, brilliant, honest, and informative, and I thank you. I thank you, Reverend Victoria Burson and Dr. Donalson, for the wonderful job that you have done in facilitating this conversation. I'm just glad to be here and be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for helping us tonight. Well, listen, everyone, the great woman of God has spoken. She definitely spoke into my bosom. If she spoke into your bosom, even if she hasn't, let's bless her. Come on, y'all. PayPal at Pink Road Chronicles. PayPal at Pink Road Chronicles, or you can go to Venmo at Melva-Sampson, or you can go to Zelle, Dr. Melva Sampson, Dr. Melva Sampson at gmail.com. And if you can't remember that, go to her Pink Chronicles page and then just say, I want to bless you for being on Leadership on the Go. How can I do that? And then she will be able to give you that information. Here's the announcement we have for this evening. I don't want to belabor the moment. Many of my viewers have been inboxing me, and I apologize. I apologize so much that we've had to cancel many episodes. We've had some great, I can't name all the people who would have been special guests. I can start with Pastor Martin Espinoza, Bishop Sonia Rawls, Bishop Allison Abrams, Dr. Quincy Reinhardt. We've had some Dr. Venice folks. We've had some very good guests, and there are many, many more. I just can't remember. Reverend Sonia Williams. Bishop-elect Sonia Williams. We've had to cancel episodes because, unfortunately, I some time ago said I am not well. I'm not well. I'm not okay. And a lot of you inboxed me. And from that time, I was diagnosed with a third cancer, ovarian cancer at the time. And unfortunately, it's not even ovarian cancer. It was a misdiagnosis. It's stage 4 metastatic cancer. We still don't know the origin of it. So we're being treated for what I had at number 2 because they cannot find every test they take me for. God bless. Comes out normal. Everywhere they send me for a test comes back. So they are baffled. The doctors, the oncologists, they're sending me everywhere for getting second and third opinions. But I needed to tell you that because some of my viewers said, I think you need to tell the viewers and you need to be honest with them. And you know me, I'm an open book. And so I'm being honest with you about what I have been going through. But listen, I keep hope alive and I keep trusting God that the same God who took care of cancer number 1 and number 2 will bless me in this one. So just send great vibes, great energy, keep praying that God would meet me at every point of my need. And then we'll just get wherever God wants us. People say, you don't look like you sick. I say, I ain't supposed to look like I'm sick. So I don't want to walk with my head down or have pity for me, but this is what's been happening. And so we keep moving forward. We keep blessing. I still preach, and I still have been doing pulpit supply. Matter of fact, the last one I did was for Dr. Brad Braxton, and then we will be doing something for Sister Reach soon. And so just keep me lifted up and keep the vibes going. Amen. Listen, you have been a perfect, and generous audience. My viewers, I love you. Essentials Unleashed loves you. Stay tuned for next year where we'll have some more guests that is going to rock the house. Listen, Reverend Dr. Melva Sampson set a different stage for Leadership on the Go tonight. So when you see me next season, watch out, because it's going to be even more on fire. That's all I'm going to say. God bless you. I love you. I love you, and I love you. Thank you very much.